We've been looking at all the issues, or some of the issues, leading up to the U.S. Civil War. This slideshow is 1861, The Country Goes to War. Lincoln elected president, November 6, 1860. You can see here the different colors here on the map show which states or territories voted for which candidate. You'll see more of that in your social studies book, so we won't touch on that too much. December 20th, 1860, South Carolina secedes. They decided that they were going to leave the Union. They felt that things were unconstitutional and they had had enough. They were going to be their own country. January the 9th, 1861, shots fired. Shots were fired at daybreak at the steamship Star of the West. The 250 U.S. troops on board were attempting to enter the harbor of Charleston for the purpose of communicating with Fort Sumter. Between January and February of 1861, South Carolina was joined by Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida, and Texas. These were all states that decided to be their own country. A president for the Confederacy, February 9, 1861. Jefferson Davis is chosen as the President of the Confederate States of America. These are those states that seceded the Union. He will be elected that November. This is an excerpt from the inaugural address that he made, February 18, 1861. I enter upon the duties of the office to which I have been chosen with the hope that the beginning of our career as a Confederacy may not be obstructed by hostile opposition to our enjoyment of the separate existence and independence which we have asserted, and with the blessing of Providence intend to maintain. Our present condition, achieved in a manner unprecedented in the history of nations, illustrates the American idea that governments rest upon the consent of the governed, and that it is the right of the people to alter or abolish governments whenever they become destructive of the ends for which they were established. In other words, he's saying that I hope that it doesn't become anything hostile, anything angry, any kind of opposition to it, but the government wasn't working for us anymore. You know, that people should have the right to abolish governments. Excerpt from the inaugural address of Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States of America, March 4, 1861. In your hands, my dissatisfied fellow countrymen, and not in mine, is the most momentous issue of civil war. The government will not assail you. You can have no conflict without being yourselves the aggressors. You have no oath registered in heaven to destroy the government, while I shall have the most solemn one to preserve, protect, and defend it. Constitution of the Confederate States of America, March 11, 1861. Their preamble, or the beginning of theirs: we, the people of the Confederate States, each state acting in its sovereign and independent character, in other words, remember those states' rights we talked about, in order to form a permanent federal government, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, invoking the favor and guidance of Almighty God to do ordain and establish this Constitution for the Confederate States of America. Sounds a whole lot like our U.S. Constitution in a lot of ways. Fort Sumter, April 12, 1861. Confederate forces fired on the fort, which was unable to effectively fight back. The United States surrendered Fort Sumter. Union forces left the following day. The firing upon Fort Sumter was the opening engagement of the American Civil War. Call to arms, 75,000 volunteers wanted. Washington, April 15th, under the act of Congress for calling out the militia to execute the laws of the Union to suppress insurrection. This was from Simon Cameron, Secretary of War. Then you saw a lot of these types of ads. Confederate calls to arms here, printed in Lexington, Kentucky, asking for volunteers to go to war in Virginia, April 17th, 1861. Now, look at the secession. From April to June 1861, you've now added Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia. And if you notice here, what's a part of Virginia? This would be what is now West Virginia. Virginia joins the Confederacy, April 17, 1861. Virginia joins the Confederate States of America. Richmond becomes the capital of the Confederacy.